How's it going, everybody? We got a video here for you on some tips and tricks on how to play No Man's Sky following the next update. This update really brought the game up to what it was supposed to be from the beginning and made a really amazing survival game out of it. It's a lot of fun and it's very difficult, so even though there is a tutorial, if you're still having some trouble, we got some tips for beginners, and then we have some advanced tips for how to farm massive amounts of units, get endgame gear really quick, and how to survive in permadeath. You're going to want to keep doing the main storyline until you get to this part here where you can summon the space anomaly there by clicking your joystick. And once you can summon the anomaly, that unlocks the next stage of quests, base building, everything else. So you're going to want to keep following the quest line past here, but this is the point when free exploration becomes a possibility. So definitely keep focusing on that main quest until you get to this point where you can summon and land on the anomaly here. If any of you are having trouble with space combat, one thing that I would advise you to do is remember, one, you have your missiles by switching and firing. These have a lot of extra damage. And then two is whenever the ship flies past you, remember to hit your brakes and turn. You have great turn speed when you're braking or reversing, and so now I can hit him every time I want. Any shot to the back deals critical damage, and you can take care of just about any ship in this game in your opening ship if you get good enough at that. So definitely not a challenging part, but an integral part of the game. Alright guys, this next one's the big one. Everyone wants to know, once you've gotten started in this game, once you've survived your first planet or two and made it through a few systems, what's the best way to earn units in this game? This game has a lot of endgame content, there's a lot of ships that cost a ton of units. You're going to need to raise quite a few. And so, while there's a lot of ways to make a bunch of units fast, I think one of the best methods is using your scanner. You can do this pretty early game, and the rewards are almost endless. You will continue benefiting from it throughout the rest of the game. And so the first thing you're going to need to do is get a weapon that has some extra slots. You don't need a whole lot. If you can find something like this rifle here with a huge number of slots, that's great. If you can't, or you don't have the units to pay for it, there's a lot of cheaper ones available. You can see here I got a 9 slot. This is going to be more than enough. The most important thing is that I can fit all my essential slots, the scanner, mining beam, analysis visor, terrain manipulator, and I'm going to want the advanced mining laser here as well. And I have a few extra slots for these scanner upgrades. And you're going to get these scanner upgrades from the technology merchants on board the ship in the row with all the other merchants. And when you talk to them, each one of these is going to have different modules for sale. And so when you go down to upgrade modules, every station you go to, you're going to want to check for scanner module S. I wouldn't waste time getting any of the lower grade scanner modules. Scanner module B here is a lot cheaper, but you get what you pay for every step of the way. So I pick up this scanner module S, and I equip it by hitting X, and placing it here, and I'm going to line this up with my other scanner, and that's because there's an adjacency bonus to all equipment in this game. And you'll see when I put this down, now they have a white outline around them. That's showing that these adjacent items get a bonus. I can combo this to another scanner analysis, and you can fit up to 3 S-grade upgrades on the same gun. So if I put all 3 of those on here, I'm going to get a huge benefit. You can see here the fauna analysis rewards have gone up by 8,516%, and the flora analysis rewards have gone up by 8,488%. So let's see what that means down on the planet with just a single scanner module upgrade. Now that we have this scan module, when we scan anything on the planet, we're going to get a hugely increased reward. 8,000% was what that module granted for each of these. And so for scanning a single plant, I get 22,000. That can go all the way up to hundreds of thousands if you combine 3 level S scan modules. So definitely pick those up early, scan everything on the planets you're on. Make sure once you have scanned that you go into the start menu, up to discoveries, and turn in all your findings. You can do that by holding X or F on the keyboard on each of these panels, and then holding X over here. Again, that's F on the keyboard. And make sure you turn all this in because that's going to grant you a bunch of nanites, which you can then use to get more scanning modules. I think that's the best way to earn early game credits. There are better ways later on, but for early game, this can't be beat. Another thing you're going to want to focus on early game is going to be expanding the slots in your exosuit. Most of the time you do this by going to space stations, and at the technology merchants there, one of them will have a booth behind him that looks just like this, and at each one of those you can purchase an upgrade to your exosuit. However, what I'm at now is called a drop pod. You'll find the coordinates for them by talking to different aliens in the space stations or at the trade posts, or you can actually find or buy drop pod coordinates to plug into your signal finder. And if you do see those drop pod coordinates for sale, make sure you pick up as many of them as you can, because this is one of the most important parts of the game. And so once you find a drop pod coordinate, you're going to want to find all the materials in order to repair it. And so you can see here we need antimatter, sodium nitrate, oxygen, and ionized cobalt. And once we have all three of those, we'll fix the parts, and then it's going to let me take a free inventory slot. Well, most people would just hit upgrade exosuit, and great, now you have an extra inventory slot right here. But what some of you may not know is that we actually have two other sections of our exosuit here. First of all, we have our technology section, and what this lets us do is input different modules and parts to expand our exosuit without wasting the cargo slots here. And then we also have the cargo section, and this cargo section actually lets each item stored in there stack to double what it stacks to in your general inventory. And so where in here a stack of sodium can only make it to 250, over in cargo it can make it to 500. Now in the space station exosuit upgrade spaces, you can actually purchase upgrades to the cargo slot and the technology slot, but you can only purchase one per system. Drop pods, you can do as many per system as you'd like, and the other advantage is that as you purchase these slots, they become more and more expensive. The cargo slots start costing millions and millions for a single slot, and so that's the one that I focus on using my drop pods the most. And so I'm going to expand my drop pod cargo slot, and you can see now, I don't see it here, I have to come to my cargo section again, but now I have this one slot. And I can transfer my items to there at any time, just like it's a regular inventory space, except now I can hold up to 500 of a single stack. You're definitely going to want to expand your cargo slots and your technology slots more using the drop pods, and then I usually use the station system upgrade pods to upgrade my general slots, or some of the early game technology or cargo slots if I haven't found a drop pod yet. Once you have some navigational data and some drop pod coordinates, whether you found those in the map or if you found them for sale at a trade depot, you can come to your signal booster here and plug those in order to locate some nearby structures that are pretty handy in the game. And so it gives you 4 options from your navigational data. And so the first option is secure frequencies. This is going to lead you to resource depots and manufacturing facilities. That can be some new technology or some advanced materials. The distress frequency can lead you to the different crashed ships throughout the system, and those can be salvaged for either the ship or some valuable resources. The habitable outpost is going to take you to trade outposts and other places that have alien NPCs that are interactable, basically if you're looking for a place to sell things. And lastly is alien artifacts, and alien artifacts are some of the highest selling loot in the game, so this is definitely a good option. Also in early game it can be great to get a ship, which we're going to show you about that as well. So the first one that I want to show you guys of these is the distress beacon. Now the distress beacon can lead you to crashed ships like the one I'm looking at here, and these crashed ships will have damaged slots in them, which can't be used until you use certain items to repair them. And usually those items are extremely costly. So even though this ship might have a bunch of extra slots or might be a great ship, a lot of the times it's not really worth it to try and fix these up. As you can see, this one's only an 18 slot. A bunch of these are taken up by broken parts here. We'll compare it with my ship here. My ship's not that great, but at least all my spots are usable. But I can get it for 0 units. So why not, right? You can have as many ships as you want. As far as I can tell, I have yet to hit the cap. And I also like the look of it. But this ship is still practically useless. Well, rather than repairing it, what I would suggest doing is if you go into the inventory, you can fix up these 2 most important parts, the pulse engine, and a lot of the times the launch thrusters here will be damaged as well. Once those 2 are fixed, This ship is totally functional. It can fly, it can go into space. Now, it doesn't have any shields, doesn't have any guns, and doesn't have a hyperdrive, but it is a functional ship, and it can be summoned to any location using the quick access menu with X on the mouse and keyboard or down on the controller. But one thing that I can do with this ship is I can come in here and I can hold right stick for dismantle. Let's see, what would that be with mouse and keyboard? That would be hold middle mouse click with mouse and keyboard, and I can dismantle all the different parts of this ship that are non-essential. Now, this ship only has the one, the efficient thrusters. But when I do that, if I dismantle this part, it's going to give me a technology module. And so that's a great bonus to this to begin with. And then also, I can then trade this ship in later. So now that we have the salvage ship, we can summon that ship at any time by hitting X and then going over to the summon vehicles section. On the far right is the select other ship, and now you can go through all the different ships that you have. So if I bring this ship here, as soon as I get in the ship, it's going to make this one my primary. And whenever you go to buy a new ship, you're offering to sell them your old ship, or you can offer to sell them your old ship. Now that that ship is my primary, I can come up here and talk to any of these starship captains, and when I make an offer on the ship, it's going to give me the option to trade the ship that I have as my primary. And so now I can trade them this broken down ship with all these empty slots that are unusable for this ship here, and it'll only give me 420,000 units. Not a huge amount, but it's enough to make it worth it to pick up any derelict ships you see, fix up those two parts, and then now you have something that you can use to decrease the value of whatever you're purchasing later on. I have not fixed up one of these to full because of the extensive resource usage. You can see they use a lot of chromatic metal, magnetized ferrite, and other ingredients. It's just a lot of work to fix one of these things up. So I'm definitely a fan of fixing them up and then selling them in and getting something a bit better back at a cheaper rate. One helpful tip, if you're looking to lose these Sentinels, if I fly out of the atmosphere, they're going to send the ships to chase me down, the NPC security forces. But if I fly low until that timer wears out, it still counts as me being on the ground. So this is a great way to lose the Sentinels if you're being chased by them on the ground. If you're in the air and you're being chased by Sentinels, you can do the opposite of that. You can land, and usually you'll generate a wanted level on the ground as soon as you do, and then you just do the same thing. You fly around at low altitude until the searching is done. If you get bugged and the Sentinels are still chasing you after you've done everything you can to remove them, the easiest way to get rid of them is to land, get out of your ship so that it saves, and then as soon as you've saved, just hit start, reload autosave, or quit to mode select, and then reload, and when you reload in, you will have no wanted level every time. Do be careful with that, though. There are some bugs that happen when you reload the game. I try not to abuse it just because of that. But when it's needed, especially on permadeath. Alright guys, this next tip is a big one. Whenever you're warping into a new system, you have a chance to come across a space battle where the pirates are attacking one of these freighters. So right away when you see that, you should jump right into combat, find the nearest target, fire away, and destroy. Hitting an enemy in the back is a critical hit, and so if you can manage to land a missile shot, it is a one-hit kill on just about every enemy in the game. It does so much damage, so make sure you use those missiles plenty. They are very helpful, especially in this starter ship. Once I've defeated the pirates, all I have to do is go to the landing space right there. It is glowing. Be very careful not to accidentally tap your missiles or your laser beams. If you shoot this ship at all after the battle, you will be deemed an enemy and will not be able to board the ship. So be very cautious about that. Once I'm on board, I'm going to make my way to the bridge here and speak with Admiral Gakamaringal. And when I speak with him, he's going to offer me this ship for free. And that is because I don't have a freighter currently. So if you don't have a freighter and you rescue a freighter from pirates, the captain offers to give you the ship for free. And if you hit inspect, you get to look at what that freighter is. Freighters do have different classes and different numbers of slots. These can go, as far as I've heard, up into the 40s. And the class can go from C to B to A to S is the best class in the game. And so I can accept this ship, and now I have a free freighter. I am a brand new character with 500,000 units to my name, and I have the late game ship. However, if you decide to not take this ship, this one has a hyperdrive system and that's it. It's a B-class ship. It's a decent ship, but it's very low on slots. Only 17 is not very great. So if instead of accepting this ship, I leave, now I can continue hopping system to system looking for different ships which may have better stats, more spaces, something like that would make it more worth my time. Once you have a freighter, if you rescue a freighter, you do not get the same reward. So you can't exchange the freighter you have for a different free freighter later. All right, guys, so next up, one of my personal favorite parts of this game, space piracy. Now, I didn't realize this was an option in the early game. I thought that battling against the security forces was just kind of something you could do to fill the time, add a little combat to the game when it got boring. But if you look at any of these freighters, these NPC freighters, and you look through these cargo pods, you can actually see that 1, they have a health pool, and 2, they each list a resource. And by destroying each of these pods, I will actually gain that resource. So one of the first things I want to do is I want to make sure I have lots of free space in my ship inventory, because I'm going to be filling these up fast. So I'm going to move whatever I can over to my exosuit. And now I have plenty of space to work with. Now the second thing is that as soon as I attack this, the security forces are going to start popping in to destroy me, as well as the freighter itself attacking me. So what I'm going to need is a safe port to land on to lose the police. Think of it like pay and spray in Grand Theft Auto. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to my log and select the Space Anomaly mission. Now you can see it says to board the Space Anomaly. Sometimes you have to wait for a duration for that to allow. You'll understand when you get to that part of the mission. But anyways, once I scan the area, the Space Anomaly appears very close by. And I like sitting right next to the freighter when I do that, so that now I know that that Space Anomaly is right next to me there. Mind you, we are on permadeath, so this is a little risky, but I'm confident that I can pull this off in the starter ship with no upgrades. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick which pod to start with. I don't really care about this platinum here, so I'm going to start right here with the magnetized ferrite. So if I just start attacking, you can see that very first pod yielded 156 magnetized ferrite, ionized cobalt, gold, more magnetized ferrite. I'm just going to go through and destroy each and every one of these pods. Now, the police are warping in right now, but as long as I don't let my shields get too low, I don't have to worry about them too much. Keep in mind that if you do destroy the police ships, they just send more and more reinforcements, and they get more and more difficult to defeat. So, personally, I don't recommend battling with them if you don't have to. Easier to run away. So, I'm going to destroy each of these pods going down the line. Now, as you can see, my shields are getting a little low. Rather than turning and fighting and trying to take care of it that way, I'm just going to use a quick recharge using some sodium. Make sure you have some spare sodium on hand before starting this, because you probably will need a few shield recharges, unless you have a very late game ship. In late game, I definitely prefer this method to farming up these materials, specifically the chromatic metal and the ionized cobalt. Can be very difficult to get in large quantity, and you're going to need a lot of both. So this is a great method of going through. As you can see, there are 3 freighters in my immediate vicinity and a whole other set of 3 right over there. There is a ton of loot to be gathered. All you got to do is pop these cargo pods. Alright, so now that I have a full inventory, all I have to do is fly over here to the Anomaly. Do be careful, as you approach the Anomaly, you're going to start losing speed. Just be ready with that deflector shield recharge in case it's needed. All I have to do is slow boat it in here and make sure that my shields don't drop too low. That is with the boosters, by the way. So if there's a lot of ships coming in, you can take a lot of damage here. Also, hopefully you're lucky enough that the Anomaly is faced away from these ships, because then it's protecting me from the shots from the frigates, which can do a lot of damage, as well as the freighter itself. Once you've boarded the Anomaly, as you can see, my wanted level has disappeared. Now that you have a bunch of magnetized ferrite, you can actually plug that into the refinery and reverse that down to pure ferrite at a 2-to-1 odds. And that's going to be very helpful for building your base, which requires huge amounts of the pure ferrite. So I found the easiest way is to farm a bunch of magnetized ferrite and then reverse that down just by putting in here and cooking it regularly in the processor and getting the pure ferrite out of it. Now, this next one is for people like me. It might be silly, but for some of us, aesthetics are everything. Not only do we want to fly around the universe in a spaceship that has good stats and good damage and all that, but we want to have a ship that we like the appearance of. So let's say you found a ship that you really like, but when you look at it, the stats just aren't quite what you were hoping for. Let's say I was looking for more like a A-class and closer to the 30 slots than this ship has. One thing that a lot of people don't know is that the aesthetics of every ship are tied to that system. And so if I were to spend long enough time in this system, I'm going to see this exact same ship over and over again, as well as every other ship that I see in this system. And so what that means is that if you mark down a system that you like the ships in, or if you found an S-class ship in a certain system, you can then put down a base or something else, maybe rename the system something you'll remember, and then you can come back here and this ship will continually appear with different stats each time. Now, it might take a while, but that's exactly how you can get a high-level ship that has all the stats you're looking for and still has the look that you want the most. So that's it for today, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and found the tips helpful. If you like the channel, please subscribe here on YouTube and come check us out on twitch.tv/streamerhouse. We are a 24/7 live gamer house. If you have any tips of your own, make sure to put those in the comments. I'm always happy to hear about any other way that I can get an edge in this game. It is certainly a rough one on permadeath, so safe flying out there and have a good one.